Hey, yo, welcome back to Absolute Intense Wrestling's The Card is Going to Change. My name is Ronald Two Legs. As always, I am joined by Absolute Intense Wrestling owner, John Thorne. What is up, Thorne?
I'm here, having a stressful day, but we are plowing ahead till Friday.
Yeah, it gets crazy week of show. This one's going to be a little bit more intense. We're coming up on our show for our 20th anniversary of Absolute Intense Wrestling. So, of course, a big show like this, all kinds of stress for you week of, I'm sure, huh?
Oh, stress is an understatement for this one, but yeah, it's so different, working with a machine like AEG.
Yeah,
it's a lot. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. There's like a lot of people that I got to talk to on a daily basis because they're used to dealing with big tours and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of different. Like, I'm just getting it from all angles. I mean, which is, they're excited about the show, and which is a relief. But it's a lot. It's a lot different, I'll say, than even the major venues we've run in the past. This is like a whole different animal that we're walking into on Friday night, which is could be very good. It could be very good for us. I all accounts look like it is selling well. As of this,
yeah, I know that you said
4 tickets available. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, I know that you said at one point they were kind of sold out. And then they opened up some more tickets, and then there was maybe a handful of tickets in like an accessible seating situation. Stuff like that. But yeah, it is much different. Obviously, we went from, doing Mount Carmel and places like that, these VFW halls or halls, places like that, whatever. Then, we went to the Odeon and Temple Live and some bigger concert venue stuff like that. But yeah, an AEG building is even a higher step above of just, protocols and emails and checks and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of checks. There's a lot of balances.
Yeah.
For sure. But as I was saying, as of this recording, so I get like this, I get these reports, these automated reports that come to me 3 times a week, letting me know kind of where the tickets are. And to be perfectly honest with you, they make absolutely no sense to me at all. Because there's so many different ticket levels. They did a Valentine's Day sale. They did a $25 all-in sale. They did T-Mobile Tuesday sales. There's there's so much information on these emails that I get 3 times a week. And then, late last week, people started saying there's no tickets available.
Yeah.
They did the all-in tickets. Those sold. There were no tickets available in the GA at all. All the ringside sold out. All the tables are sold out. So I looked into these reports, and it was saying that there were 30 tickets unsold.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, where? And then it just said ADA, and I was like, where? What is how do you get to that? And then I looked on we have a main page on AXS tickets. And, it says tickets, the deck, which that by all accounts, I think is sold out as well.
Hell yeah.
That doesn't even show up on my report. So I don't even know what the deal is with the deck. That's going to be a conversation for Friday, I'm sure. But, you can't get a deck ticket. You can't get a GA ticket. You can't get a ringside ticket. But then I noticed there's an accessible seating tab on our main ticketing page. I clicked on that, and it's a general admission available. Okay. And then I just, by looking at this report, I said, ADA, accessible seating, this is why they're not saying the show is sold out, because these 30 tickets are right there.
Yeah.
So I put that information out there, and as of this recording, there are 4 tickets.
Wow.
Left in the ADA accessible seating section. That's it. What I will say is I pleaded with them to please make tickets available on Friday for walk-ups.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah, day of for sure.
You can't rely on everybody to have this information that there's going to be no walk-ups. I said everybody is used to there being some sort of walk-up, and I think that they've set it up rather conservatively for the first show there. They want, and I actually had a very good conference call today with them about, they came to the Roxy, that first show that was fucking packed.
Yeah.
And
it was tight.
They were just like, we want to make sure the fan experience is good. They're very concerned with the fan experience, and making sure everybody's comfortable, everybody can move around.
That's good, yeah.
So they didn't want to oversell it, but I've been trying to explain to them that, even their number is way underselling what I think the number could be for comfortability, which is, I think we could easily sell 100 more tickets for Friday, and everyone's going to be able to move around. It's a 1,200 capacity room. Right now we have 500 pre-sale. Well, 496 pre-sold. So I think, you can bump that up to 100. It's way, way, way bigger than Roxy. It is. People are going to actually, I think, be shocked at how big this place is. Pedro and I were both like, holy fuck, this is a big place when we went and did a walkthrough. So I think that they could open up more tickets. If those 4 accessible tickets sell before Friday, we will send out an email to the email list. We will hit socials as soon as they tell us, because essentially they said they want to see the ring set up, they want to see the seating set up, they want everybody to get their merch tables set up and all that stuff, and then they want to say, see what it looks like in there. Because if you remember that Roxy show, Russell Ruggs was in the main space. Swaggle was doing his meet and greet in the main space. I think the Slugger had a table set up in the main space at the Roxy. So they're concerned that all that is going to, dwarf the capacity. Yeah. But they have a whole fucking merch area. I mean, this place is pretty big. So I am confident that they are going to open up tickets on Friday. Probably just at the box office, no adding it to AXS or whatever. I think they're going to open up tickets Friday. I mean, this is me speaking it into the universe. If you don't have a ticket, speak it into the universe as well. I think that we'll be able to open up some tickets Friday. I pleaded my case today on my conference call. They seemed receptive to it. They didn't seem receptive of adding 100 tickets today. Yeah. But they seemed receptive to the fact that, well, once you guys get set up, we'll take a look, and we'll probably be able to add some capacity on Friday, and then from there, then they'll really be able to make adjustments to the capacity for Absolution. But it's really just GA capacity. I think they're really set in how they're doing the ringside and all that stuff. So if you're like a ringside person, get those Absolution tickets when the pre-sale for Patreon is happening tomorrow morning, or probably this morning as you're listening to this podcast. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're adding more ringside seating. It's really just about how much more GA standing room they can add to the space.
Yeah, basically once we get in there and they see, okay, with all these tables set up, yeah, we could easily add, 50 or 100 and still be at, a comfortable level. But I don't. What you're saying is they're not going to go adding a fourth row or fifth row of chairs or something like that. So if you're a
Right.
person who wants a chair, you might want to get on that Absolution presale. That's for sure.
Right, correct. So yeah, that's where things are at. It's in a really cool area, West Bank of the Flats. I think it's I don't know. Like, I just feel like when you're going downtown, it just feels like a bigger deal. To me, I know some people disagree with that. Some of our fans are not big downtown goers, but I feel like it just feels like a bigger deal when you're at a real venue. You're in downtown Cleveland. Right on the river there. It just I always felt that way when we were at the Odeon. I thought that was just such a cool location to be in the flats like that. Right in the kind of heart of downtown. Along the Cuyahoga River. So we're pretty much right back. Just on the opposite side. So looking forward to it. Very just stressed. I texted Pedro today. I said, I just have this, like, I don't get this feeling anymore. And I have this just like nervousness, anxiousness. There's just a lot of ness going on this week. I just don't really get that excited. And, I just have so much, I don't know, anxiety about the whole thing, I guess, like a nervous excitement.
Yeah. I mean, speaking to what you were talking about with the downtown venue and everything, it's just like you said, I agree with the whole big feel of just proper downtown Cleveland, in the flats. To me, that just, it's, and from what I've heard too, there's been a handful of shows at this place. Globe Iron, from what I'm hearing, is like basically going to be like the premier, venue in Cleveland, to see live music and live events and stuff. And to me, it just makes sense that, AIW will be there, the premier wrestling.
I mean, they want to make this like our version of the ECW arena is exactly what they said to be on the phone today.
Okay.
They want this to be, they don't want this to just be a music venue. They want this to be a destination for wrestling fans. They're very, very interested in making this like a home base. They've even discussed, potentially getting a bleacher sets in there and things like that, depending on how everything goes. They really want it. They want this to be a destination for not only music, but all of entertainment. And they think wrestling is a big part of that kind of, the circle of various different things that they're trying to get in there. The Agora is a little bigger, and then they operate Nautica, which is gigantic. So they're really trying to make this a hub for things, and then the Agora is going to get the bigger tours, and then Nautica is going to get the really, really big stuff over the summertime, but. They've had sold out shows in the last 2 weeks. I've seen pictures and it looks cool. So, yeah, I mean, they are definitely in the AIW business right now. They want it to be a destination for wrestling fans. They want it. They don't just want indie music fans, to know that this venue exists. They're trying to, do kind of like a full run, run of the gambit of all entertainment. And, they want us to be the wrestling piece.
Hell yeah. It's definitely exciting and encouraging to hear, that the venue is very worried, or not worried, but like very invested in the fan experience of it, because that's a big part. Especially at these bigger music venues, sometimes you kind of hear about music venues, and just maybe not being the best experiences to see concerts, this and that. Sometimes, people have their gripes, but it's encouraging to hear that they're very invested in making sure that, all the fans and everything are very comfortable. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe they're being a little too conservative about it, but, because it just seems this show has a ton of interest, for whatever reason. And I don't know if it's just the being downtown, whatever it is, the show has had interest for quite some time. So, it definitely makes us look good. again, on the schedule, we announced 3 dates there. We're going to be back there for Absolution in July, and we're going to be back there for Hell on Earth in November. So we're trying to make him, big events. So we're starting off certainly the right way with all that. And then, we're also going to try to work in Roxy shows on, in those in between kind of months and stuff like that. So we have I kind of have a map in my head of different things. It's not on the schedule we released, but, in the last week we did secure a return to the Roxy as well. So, we're not getting, moving away from that relationship either. We're trying to build all these relationships and, certainly cement our place in the greater Cleveland area, and then as well as Akron and Youngstown. It's really kind of like year 20 is like, the full territorial approach of, hitting these different markets and making, everything matter and not just doing shows to do shows, like, maybe some of those really student-centric shows got to be, where they were built for reps, which they need them, but at the end of the day, it's been well documented that, they didn't bring crowds, and the regular fans, a handful of them went to all of them, but it's certainly, obviously there's a difference there and a big drop off from the big events. So, you had to kind of put those sort of things on the back burner and really focus on quality of events, which is what we're doing.
I just really think it's a good mix and different kind of, the destinations aren't super far from each other. So like you have said, if the hardcores want to hit all of them, the hardcores can hit all of them because it's not that far to Akron. It's not that far to Youngstown. But maybe some of the Youngstown people don't want to go to Akron. Maybe some of the Akron people don't want to drive out to Youngstown. But it's not, I like you said, I feel like it's not, oversaturating with these different, different markets that we're doing and kind of mixing it up and kind of, it's not too much. You know what I'm saying? If you want to go to all of them, obviously it's not a crazy distance. So the hardcores will make it to all of them, but you're not just kind of, overrunning, I guess, is what I'm thinking, like with the spread outness of, the Youngstown, Akron, Cleveland proper, or the Roxy dates, which I actually love that Roxy date. You really saved my life on that one. I'm loving the date of that one. We discussed that one at a previous engagement around the same time, and I was hoping it didn't get scheduled for that one. So
yeah, no. Yeah. So we're just trying to make a full court press sort of thing. And make these markets count. And, Cleveland is certainly the kind of, centerpiece of all that. And then, spreading out from there. So we're going to see how it goes Friday at the Globe Iron, 20th anniversary. Like I said, if tickets are going to be released, keep an eye on that email list if you're on it, social media, all that stuff. Because I anticipate, if they're releasing them, it's going to be, for real walk up,
yeah.
They're not going to add them to AXS. It's going to be, at the box office sort of thing. So,
yeah. So maybe even plan on, just a fair warning. If you are, going to be a walk up type person, you might want to get there a little early just to figure out, what's going on. Don't show up at 6:45 and think, I'm going to walk straight up to the box office. You know what I mean? Especially if they're going to release tickets. It's not going to be a ton, I'm sure. So you want to make sure you get there with enough time to get in line, get your box office ticket, and then get in the building.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is like to get them to add like at least 50. That's kind of what I expressed to them today. They just said they want to see everything after it's set up on Friday, and then they're going to make a decision. So I was pushing for please give us at least 50 available the day of the show. So I'm hopeful, but get down there early, and they got a big parking lot. I'm not, I don't think that they'll be, too concerned about people parking early and, hanging out. So
no, and I do know, Ed Batts has been, like I said, has been there for several shows. He said there's plenty of free parking all over the place. So there is a lot. There's a ton of, they have a lot, and then there's a ton of free parking all over on the street and stuff like that. So parking should not be an issue. I know people have had problems with the flats parking, and it could be a pain. Battis has given us his word that parking should not be a problem in this area.
There's a ton of lots.
Yeah.
And then there's street parking, but obviously you are downtown parking on the street. You are doing that at your own risk.
Sure.
It's downtown Cleveland. It's you just run a risk, on a Friday night in downtown Cleveland of something going wrong.
Yeah.
So that's the disclaimer. It happens in every metropolitan downtown area. Just if you are not a person that travels to a downtown city area often, I would pay that $20 or whatever it is, $10 to park. There's the Shooters lot next door. There's the Nautica Aquarium lot about a block away, and then AEG has that lot it's right connected to the venue. And then, there's also, you can park further. You can park at the Flatiron, walk over the bridge. There's all kinds of lots down there, but
Flatiron, shout out Steve Guy.
Yeah, I would, if you're going to park on the street, there's a lot of free parking, but, I would do it at your own risk. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what do you say we get into this card? Because we have quite a card to discuss here. It is the hard sell week on the pod here, as if we had to hard sell it, basically said it's sold out. But we do have an incredible card coming up for the 20th anniversary. Obviously, if you cannot make it and you're not going to be in the area, you can find us on YouTube. Go to the Absolute Intense Wrestling YouTube page, subscribe. There is a tab in there to sign up for membership. And you can get in there. We do have a free view match that'll be available on YouTube for free prior to the start of the show. Usually we get it in there around 7:10, 7:15 or so. With this free view match is going to be a banger in my opinion. A four-way of some four strong names going through the AIW ranks these days. Malcolm Cambridge in his recently singles run he's been going on, going to take on Tyson Riggs versus Shimbashi versus Shaw Mason in the four-way free view match.
Yeah, I mean, trying to open it up with people coming out of the academy, and I mean that's there's not a lot more to say about that.
I mean, I have a tiny bit to say just because of what
Go for it.
He's coming off of. I mean, you got to say Tyson Riggs coming off a performance at Gauntlet for the Gold. If you have not signed up for Absolute Intense Wrestling's YouTube to watch these shows back, or the Patreon, I know you can watch on Patreon the next day for like $5. You have got to go watch Gauntlet for the Gold. Tyson Riggs, that last show, oh my! I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't seen it, but boy, what a match! He's really taken off lately. The kid has definitely come out of his shell in AIW, and I think this four-way is going to be. You're going to see another level of it coming out of Tyson Riggs. He's ascending, getting bigger and stronger. Taking on he's taking on everybody in AIW. He's on fire lately.
Yeah, but what about, dark horse of the Gauntlet, Shimbashi?
I was just going to say, going up against a guy who came off another extremely strong performance in Gauntlet. Shimbashi got in there in a free view, won his way into the Gauntlet, and made a deep run. I believe he was like one of the last four, wasn't he? 5 or something like that?
I don't know if he made it that far, but I mean,
it was at least 4, last 5 or 6 somewhere. He was down there close to the final 4.
He was in there for a while. I'll say that he had a nice little run, and then Shawn Mason and Malcolm Cambridge, both coming off of losses at the Roxy. So high stakes. High stakes here.
Yeah.
I would say Shimbashi is really the only one coming off of a win, defeating Vic Weiss on the free view at Gauntlet.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, this is going to be a banger to start it out for the Freeview. So catch the Freeview on YouTube if you haven't signed up yet. Get on our YouTube and sign up. Going forward in the card, there's so many matches on this.
Initially, I guess, well, before you move on,
Sure.
initially, I won't reveal, but initially we were going to open up the Freeview with two Cleveland All-Pro legends as kind of a homage to JT and Cleveland All-Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And they got cold feet about 3 weeks out, and didn't think that they could make it make it happen by this Friday. So potentially we're going to do something like that down the line. But that was kind of the way I wanted to initially start the show, as kind of, our 20 years, give, a little credit to Cleveland All-Pro and JT, and open it up with two guys that never competed in the IW before, but were Cleveland All-Pro guys. And it did, fall apart about three or 4 weeks ago. But, so that's just a little spoiler of, what almost happened. Not that I don't know that that would have swayed anybody in coming or not, but, just kind of where my head was at. So this, unfortunately for these four, or maybe fortunately for these four, they were all going to be left off of the show. And, this spot opened up for them. So,
well, there you go. You see, as the title dictates, the card is going to change. That's for sure. Going forward in the card, speaking of, kind of the Cleveland All-Pro days and going way back to the early beginnings of AIW, this match, two guys that have been around for a long time in Absolute Intense Wrestling. We got the I'm trying to think of what even the word. He re-debuted or reappeared, I suppose, at Gauntlet for the Gold in Vincent Nothing, coming back to AIW, going to take on M-Dog, Matt Cross.
This happened on the very first AIW show ever. So, to kind of give an idea where my head was at a little bit, I just revealed I wanted to open it with, I was hoping to open it with a little, homage to Cleveland All-Pro and JT, but that fell apart.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of try to spice or splice in kind of potentially some different eras or some matches that happened, in the past, kind of redo them. Mm-hmm. There's this card's kind of all over the place. It's kind of like a standalone one-off card.
Yeah.
But I looked at the first show and I went, well, there's a match that we could certainly redo. And it was Vincent Nothing and Matt Cross, which happened on the very first AIW show. So I had, I had kind of had that up on the board, and, some people were in the room asking me, what my ideas were. And, that was one this card has changed 100 times, of what I wanted to do. At first I wasn't going to do any nostalgia. Then I was only going to do this match for nostalgia. Then I was just going to keep everything advancing the current stories, and then just have this nostalgia match. There's been a lot of different incarnations of this card, because I just didn't know, is there a desire for the nostalgia, the remember when, or do people just want to see an AIW show up to modern 2025 standards? So I struggled really with putting this whole show together, but this was one that I was always kind of never going to move off of, just because I thought it was so unique to be able to do a match that happened on the very first AIW show. Whether fans care or not, I don't know. But for me, I thought that was just like such a cool story for, people like myself and Matt Wadsworth who were there, to be able to just, 20 years later present it, so, this is one I really didn't move off of. There's, obviously been, history with Vincent Nothing, early in AIW, and then, not so much. But people don't realize is, when AIW started, there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen, a lot of people trying to provide input on this. You know, we didn't know that it was going to last 20 years. And it didn't last 20 years for a lot of those people that were in that room. But my first draft pick was Vincent Nothing, who used to be known as Kid Wicked earlier in his career. He changed his name to Vincent Nothing, I believe, like right before AIW started. But he was not doing a lot of wrestling at the time. And, you know, I remember I hit up Kid Wicked. I think it was Kid Wicked RCW on AIM.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'm going to run a show and I want to book you for it. I've known Vince for over 20 years. You know, we were teenagers trying to, you know, exist in the wrestling world. I believe we're the same age or right around the same age. You know, we were both, you know, kind of came up through the same unconventional ways, you know, and Vince was a very kind of he was, I don't want to say he was a controversial figure, but for that time period and, you know, how AIW started splitting off from this other group of people, Vince certainly wasn't their favorite person. So for me, Vince was the first guy that I wanted to book. And he was the first guy. He was my first draft pick for AIW for the first show when I was getting put together.
Wow.
So for it to come full circle 20 years later and for him to be coming back to AIW is you know, it's pretty incredible. It's a pretty, like, you can't write that story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people were shocked at Gauntlet for the Gold, rightfully so, but I think, you know, Vince is going to be back for a little bit, it seems.
Yeah, I saw a handful of people say that was like one of the best Gauntlet surprises they've ever had. They thought for sure they'd never see Vince back in AIW. But for me, for a guy who hasn't been around forever and didn't see Vince before this, Vince to me, and this match in general, to me is a perfect match for this card where there doesn't have to be a big story or anything like that really leading up to it. Because for me, Vince is a guy who... There's been a handful of guys in AIW who can go through the curtain and you just look at him and you're like, holy shit, like this dude's about to fuck some shit up, you know what I mean, type shit. And Vince is definitely a guy who, that guy hit the curtain and you're like, man, all right, this dude is a killer, like, let's go. So he's got that factor. And then you got M Dude in there, who is a guy who can just go berserk. I mean, the guy, same thing, walks through the curtain, cut up, big jack dude. You look at me, you're like, all right, we're about to see some shit when M Dude comes through that curtain. So these two, I don't think there really needs to be any story. You can know that they were both on that first show and they've been around forever, but I can only imagine these two could put on a banger without any lead up to, any build up prior to it. I think these two will put on a banger.
Well, this is the thing that I try to explain to Chase Oliver sometimes is, you know, you make a story out of anything, you know, like, and on paper, to some people, this may look like, I don't know why these guys are wrestling, but like, they wrestle each other on the first show. They're wrestling each other on the 20th anniversary show. Like, I think that is an amazing story in itself, you know, like, that is, you know, that's the story, you know, and I don't know how many people are going to be there Friday that were at Peabody's in 2005. I would guess probably not a lot. But maybe, you know, maybe somebody was there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe somebody remembers. I certainly remember. And, you know, I think it's a cool way to celebrate 20 years.
Exactly. Talking about another match that has happened before, maybe more than once, but another one I'm extremely excited for. We got the Bone Collector, Dom Guarini, taking on Filthy Tom Lawler. Two of my absolute favorite wrestlers of all time have had some incredible matches in AIW. I mean, Tom broke his friggin' arm over Dom's head at one point. I mean, these two have some heated rivalry. Again, not a story there, but could easily be a story. You know what I mean?
So, you know, once I started leaning into doing some of the nostalgia because I was really against the nostalgia because essentially everybody was trying to get me to wrestle. And
I'm still going to try up until Friday. I'm like, got your gear, Thorne? Come on.
I have no interest in wrestling at all.
Oh, I'm aware.
But a lot of people were like trying to get me to do it. And I'm just like, there's just no way that I can get myself ready to do that. Nor do I care to really do that. So that's why I was like so against the nostalgia because my argument is nobody is going to give a fuck to see me wrestle. Nobody wants to see nostalgia. So I was trying to avoid leaning into a card full of nostalgia. But ultimately I decided on doing kind of a mix, and I picked, I looked at the people that I really wanted to be there, and I was just like, okay, let's look at some of their, some of their more, I don't want to say famous matches, but maybe memorable matches that happened, you know, and obviously Tom and Dom had a feud several years ago, and I know that they've wrestled maybe once in AIW since then, maybe in a one-off sort of thing, but I thought, this is perfect for both of them, based on, okay, like let's look who's available, who you can't have a 30-match show. So I thought this was a perfect matchup for both of them.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, this is it hits on that nostalgia as they've had quite the feud, but it's nothing, that you would ever be worried about people being like, oh, we want to see this again, because I could watch this match 100 times.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like I know it's not going to be a nostalgia act in the sense of what a nostalgia act is.
Right.
I know these guys are going to they're going to try to top everything they ever did before.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing too, is like I'm also looking at this show as like an infomercial for what AIW's been for 20 years. And, I think this is a perfect example of it.
Yeah, excited for that one. Another one I'm excited for, you got another returner coming back to AIW who, somebody who has been in AIW for a long time, but, very sporadic in coming back, but obviously, reasons for that. But we got Allison Kay taking on Jocelyn Navarro. I believe this match has happened as well, but they're going to run that one back again.
It was Jocelyn's first singles match in a real AIW show, I believe.
So that right there, again, you go back to the story, no story, right there. That Jocelyn's first opponent in a first singles match in AIW. Coming back full circle, 20-year anniversary show. Allison Kay coming back after not being in AIW for a long time.
If you don't count Go for Broke, which Go for Broke is kind of its own standalone thing.
Yeah.
This was on the comeback out of COVID shows. I can't remember which one. I think it was Hello Cleveland.
Okay.
When we did the whole where everything was a mystery card. So this was kind of Jocelyn's coming out party to the live crowd. And I believe she came up on the losing end of that. So, this is kind of a big test, mountain for her to get over sort of thing. But again, looking back at some of those matches that have happened in the past, that we did that one at the Odeon, COVID, super limited capacity, all that stuff. So I was thinking of things Jocelyn has done and what we could do, and we ultimately I booked Allison Kay to run that back again.
I'm excited for that one. Like I said, I'm sure all the fans are as well. We have a lot of Allison Kay fans in the house, but Jocelyn, really, like we call her the gold standard of AIW these days. I'll be very curious to see where the crowd's at. Half and half or 75-25, where they're going to be at.
If you get any old school AIW fans in there, Allison Kay was a staple in AIW.
Yeah,
for a very, very long time. Had some incredibly memorable matches. We got a tweet that, Allison Kay and Mia Yim was one of like the first viral women's wrestling clips, in the Twitter age in the, I don't know what year it would have been, over a decade ago, probably though at this point. But, certainly, was a mainstay in AIW. So, she's been a few times in recent years, but, I thought, for 20 years, Allison Kay is certainly somebody that has done a lot and meant a lot for this company. So I wanted to bring her back.
Like I said, very excited for this one. Very excited. Going further in the card here, we got a three-way that I think is just going to be absolute pure carnage. It's
another rematch.
The three-way?
Yeah.
Dillinger with Katie Arquette versus Kaplan versus Matthew Justice. I mean, this is just going to be absolute fucking chaos.
Google it. It happened.
Oh, man. What show was that? I can't even remember.
It happened at 4 Sports, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Hell on Earth, I'm guessing then. Okay.
Or a Gauntlet.
Or Gauntlet, right. Yeah, we had Gauntlet there, right.
We need Wadsworth as like a phone a friend, but I know it happened. I'm gonna Google it right now.
Fair enough. But I mean, this match in general, it's just going to be a car crash. If you got to get a beer, you got to go to the bathroom, I would do it prior to this match because you're not going to want to miss what these three absolute maniacs are going to do, I'm sure.
It says this match happened at Hell on Earth XVII, so 17.
17, yeah. 2024.
Yeah, so there you go. It happened.
Hell yeah.
I told you it happened.
Well, we're running it back again, and anything that wasn't resolved in that first one, I can guarantee these three are going to resolve it this time. I mean, I honestly don't even know what more you can say about this match. Three of my absolute favorites. I know you're a big Kaplan guy. You tout Kaplan all the time, rightfully so. But yeah, this one, I don't even know what more you can say about it.
This happened in 2020. This happened in 2022.
Oh wow. Oh, is that because Hell on Earth's like one extra or
Hell
something,
on Earth
right?
is two. I think 1 or 2 extra because we did them during COVID, but we didn't do the other marquee shows.
That's what threw me off.
Yeah, November 25th, 2022.
Okay, so that was almost...
Derek Dillinger defeats Kaplan and Matthew Justice.
Wow.
At the 4 Sports in Eastlake, Ohio.
Dillinger with the victory. I'll be very curious to see who comes out of this one victorious. That's for sure. Going forward,
Derek not 100%.
That is true. That should be said. Yeah, as we saw coming out of Gauntlet, Derek was having knee problems.
Still, I ask him. I say, "What's the diagnosis?" And he just says, "I'm waiting to hear." And he's still taking bookings, and I'm just like, "Brother, you're on crutches."
Yeah, I would have to think that's just Derek being a gamer, man. He just does not want to miss this show. I think maybe there's a possibility he could not be 100%, but he's not gonna cancel that booking. Obviously wasn't here for the whole 20 years of it, but Derek's been in AIW for a long time. He's been an Cleveland independent professional wrestling fan since he was a child. If you follow him on social media, you see pictures him and his dad and stuff going to the Cleveland All Pro shows when he was a kid. So to be on this 20th anniversary show, I'm sure means a lot to Derek. So I'm sure he's probably not 100%. You're probably right.
Yeah, no shot.
Going forward in the card, we got a 4-way. This one is going to be wild. They talk about some showstoppers in here, AIW and the 4-ways we put on, scrambles and all the things we do. This one is going to be wild. We got Dex Royal taking on Alec Price, taking on Gringo Loco, taking on Mikey Montgomery. Four high flyers that are gonna do some wild shit. I can tell you that.
Yeah, this one is not nostalgia based. This one is let's fucking go based. You got to mix a little bit of that into, I felt, and that's where we're at for this card. For this match on the card is let's fucking go.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, what more really do you even got to say about that one? Everyone, if you've been coming to AIW at all, you know these four guys, and they're going to put on a show, that's for sure. Excuse me. Going forward in the card, we have some titles going up. This one, not one of our titles, but a title nonetheless. We got one called Manders, the WXW Unified World Title match. He's the title holder for that one, the WXW title holder, taking on Big Sam Holloway.
Yeah, I was talking to Manders when he was in Germany doing the tour. We were kind of staying in contacts, just talking here and there. And he really wanted to come back. For whatever reason, Manders really holds a special place for AEW. Mm-hmm. He did, he's done sporadic appearances, over the years. But, you have to think back. In that Odeon era, he's just entering the business, and him and Twan had that crazy-ass match that led to getting him some more bookings and got a little attention for him at the time because they fucking almost killed each other. But he's like, I really want to come back, and, I'd like to do the 20th anniversary, and, the thing, and I was just like, I'll let you know sort of thing because, I didn't know where I was at, on the card, and he was just like, I know in kayfabe Sam called him out, but he was like, I want to get in there with Sam Holloway. So, he won the belt, and he got all of this praise over that international tour he did. And I said, fuck it, let's do it. Yeah. And then when, he won the belt, and then he's just like, can I put the belt on the line? And I was just like, I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? He's like, what do you mean you don't know? It's your show. And I was just like, well, if you're still the champion by then, let's put it up. So it will be for the WXW Unified World Championship. I think Manders is obviously operating on a different level. I do think people like him kind of look down on Sam in a sense for having that ID contract.
Yeah.
And getting that money. I do think there's some animosity there, and I do think there's some, I want to show this, whoever, be it Sam, be it the powers that be at WWE, like wants to show them up in a sense. So I think there's going to be a lot of legitimate competitiveness in this match.
Hell yeah.
Because Sam, wants, like, even though he has that contract, I think, he wants respect.
Sure.
So, and I feel like maybe fans aren't giving those guys respect in a sense. And I think Sam wants to prove, he is certainly worthy, and a admirable, formidable opponent, for this caliber of title. So I see this one as, Manders wanting to prove something to Sam, and Sam wanting to prove something to the rest of the world, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Manders has everything to lose with the title. Sam, you can't really put a value on somebody that is like desperate for the acceptance and respect of everybody. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you can't. I know it's like pro wrestling and all that stuff, but there's a lot of real shit that goes on, and I certainly think these guys are going to be super competitive on Friday night.
A real slobber knocker, as they say, for sure. Real jazzed for this one. Manders, too, a guy who, real quick, too, I don't want to, take up too much time with this one, but I think a guy who, like you said, early in his career came to AIW, and I remember talking to him in those Odeon days. He had a lot of respect, has a lot of respect for AIW as a whole, as a company. So I think, he's went out there, he's traveled the roads, as he said, he's been on that highway, hitting that road, and he really wanted to come back for the 20th anniversary and kind of, like you said, show Sam, show whoever, show a lot of people, that he's the man he's always been, you know what I mean? So I'm very excited for this one. Going forward in the card, we got one more non-title match before we get into all our title matches here, but we have a classic AIW scramble, 6-way scramble. A lot of names in this one. The Dirtbag, AJ, the Slugger, Austin James, versus Marion Fontaine, versus Shelby Wilder, versus the captain of the ship, Lewis Linden, versus Dr. Dan, versus Trey Lamar. This one certainly made for some fireworks for sure.
Yeah, I was trying to get, I think it wouldn't be a 20th anniversary show without a scramble.
Agreed.
And I was trying to get maybe some different eras mixed in there. Fontaine is in those. Fontaine's, been in every gauntlet, so he kind of crosses every era. But, I think of Fontaine as like an AIW OG. He's on those, if he's not on the first show, he's on, third or fourth, for the first, 2-3 years straight, everything. And Linden is, I think his first AIW shows in 2006. And then, he's sporadic, and then he really, really gets busy in the Turner's Hall and Mount Carmel eras, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dr. Dan and Trey kind of, cross over, Mount Carmel into the Odeon a little bit. And, then you have Shelby and Austin James that are more like, like Temple Live, Tadmore Shrine, kind of modern era. So, trying to kind of, hit the whole timeline here in a sense, with this scramble.
Love it. Kind of definitely, like you said, from back in the day to right now, it's kind of runs the gambit of these 6 guys. Lewis Linden, too, a guy, just an incredible wrestler. I mean, that guy, I was very vocal when I was a fan. I didn't love the captain of the ship kind of gimmick, whatever, but especially since he's been back with the 9 to 5, thought 9 to 5 was incredible, but just an incredible worker in Lewis Linden. Happy to have him back. The guy's great.
Yeah, he's kind of like semi-retired at this point.
Yeah.
But he's a big part of AIW over a lot of years, and I thought it would be great for him to be a part of this show.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like there's a lot of people that's why I didn't want to lean into the nostalgia all the way, because a lot of the people that people really, really want to see are people that cannot show up on Friday night. You know what
Sure.
I mean? So it's really like walking a tightrope in a sense with the nostalgia, I think.
Sure. Getting into the titles here, we have the AIW Tag Team titles up for grabs. This one, an all-timer of all-timers of match. PME, the current AIW Tag Team Champions, taking on To Infinity and Beyond. I don't even know how many time tag champs. These two have had quite a feud over the years. I don't even know what really more can be said about this match or will be happening in this match, but I will be in my seat ready to watch it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those legacy matches, legacy feuds, really, it was... Again, it happened at Mount Carmel. It really happened at the Odeon, where PME got their, big win. And it's happened maybe a few other times, here and there. I know, we did it on Slammed on 6th as, just kind of like a treating it kind of like a infomercial of, how good AIW is in front of all of those new fans. Mm-hmm. When you're talking tag team wrestling and AIW, it's hard to leave either of these teams out of that conversation. So I certainly thought this was a perfect match to happen, maybe for the last time. I don't know, on the 20th anniversary show.
Yeah, I mean that one. I think a fan online had asked, what the record is. This is where we need, Wadsworth, that phone a friend to Wadsworth, because I don't know what the score is, but it's up there, that's for sure. Going forward in the card, and we got Chuck Stone taking on Eric Taylor and the Duke, but Chuck Stone will have a mystery partner for this match.
Yeah. It ain't me. Stop thinking it's me.
I was just going to say, you're reiterating the fact that it will not be you. This one's
not me.
Got a lot of implications. I just recently watched the promos that Eric and Chuck put out, and a lot of story to this one. Best friends, crossovers or double crosses and whatnot. I mean, Eric was supposed to be the best man at Chuck's wedding, so I mean, this one is going to have a lot of fireworks in it. There's a lot. Plus, I mean, you got wrestling's the best thing about wrestling, surprises. We got a mystery partner.
It ain't me. That's all I got to say.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Not John Thorne. Going into our final match, what I'm guessing, is this the main event, or you don't have it paced out yet? We're not sure.
This is the main event.
Okay. So our main event, the Intense title, being defended by our Intense champion, Wes Barkley, taking on Matt Cardona with special guest referee Josh Prohibition, who has mentioned he will not be wearing the Shawn Michaels referee shirt. So for anyone wondering, he's not wearing that. But this one should be incredible.
This is the main event because, for nostalgia, again, Josh Prohibition was in the main event of the very first AIW show. So, I thought it was only fitting to kind of get him involved here in the main event of the 20th anniversary show. While not an active wrestler, he is going to be the special guest referee for the main event this Friday night for Cardona Broski versus Barkley 3.
A lot of story to that one, in my opinion. Wes has been putting out quite a few promos telling his side of this story. I know Cardona put out a poolside promo that we saw. This one is going to be a lot. The main event of the night. This should be the culmination of the show, and like I said, 20th anniversary. I feel like this is a great way to end the show.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Matt Cardona loves money. He wants those routine AIW paydays back in his rotation for sure, and he knows the only way to do that is to win a championship this Friday night. In my opinion, Wes has everything to lose here. He seems motivated and maybe overconfident. I don't know. What do you think? He's putting out a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? I think he certainly feels more confident than the two times that they've wrestled. They've encountered each other. There was a lot of things that happened between these two over the years.
Yeah.
But he certainly is coming off more confident than before. Would you agree?
I would agree. I don't think I would say overly confident. I know there's some people out there who kind of, say they don't really love the whole Wes Barkley cockiness and the confidence he has. I don't think in this case it's an overconfidence. I think, Wes has been on a mission since he regained that absolute title. The Intense title. I'm sorry, the Intense title. And he's not overconfident. I think he's just came a long way since regaining the Intense title, and I think he's proved a lot of doubters wrong. So I think he's just kind of carrying that into. I think it's a sense of confidence, but not overconfident, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's different than what I'm used to seeing, I guess, in a big match scenario like this.
Yeah.
He's usually maybe a little bit more reserved. And he's, I don't know how to put it. He just seems too comfortable for me in a way.
Yeah, I mean, Cardona's not a guy you take lightly. You know, you look at a guy like Cardona, has been around, you know, did his time in WWE for a long time, has been around on the indies, been really, you know, made a huge name for himself on the indies. You know, obviously not a guy, and he has had the best of West before, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, you know, maybe he just feels like he's preparing this time. You know, you can tell that he's certainly been in the gym putting on muscle, and his work is, I think, improved over the, you know, since he's regained the Intense title. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's just prepared this time. I don't know. To me, it just, something seems a little off about this whole thing. But yeah, you know, maybe I could be wrong. You know, I'm looking at it from the outside, kind of just like everybody else is, and you know, it's certainly not what we're used to seeing out of Wes. You know, usually it's maybe some goofy, you know, catchphrases and one-liners and things like that, and you know, he's kind of having fun. You know, he's putting content out, showing, you know, he's training and preparing, and I don't know. I think it just seems like he's too comfortable, you know. I don't know, you know. I don't know why.
Understandable. Well, we'll see what happens, what transpires this Friday. First bell, 7:30. If you don't got your tickets, like we said, there's 4 tickets available as of right now. We are hopeful for some walk-ups, so keep your eye on those socials, stuff like that. We did put the call out for questions. There was a couple questions in there, mostly, you know, kind of stuff, you know, talking about Sabu, R.I.P. Sabu, but that maybe be saved for, maybe we'll sit down and do, you know, a Patreon-style podcast on some stuff like that. Maybe get Fonzie in there, get some Sabu stories. Anything else?
Well, you know, like, this is the thing about Sabu is, like, obviously, you know, one of my favorite wrestlers ever as a teenager growing up. Just totally idolized him. And, you know, I told somebody this, you know, I don't have a lot of good Sabu stories because he usually was yelling at me when I booked him. And then I'd get mad at him and hate him. And then I'd go, oh, man, I fucking love Sabu. I should book Sabu again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like, I try and wouldn't happen, you know, and then get him again a few years later. And then he was actually booked for the comeback shows. You know, we talked about the Allison K thing. And Sabu versus Matt Justice was booked on one of those shows. I can't remember which one. And Sabu ended up pulling off like the day before. And I was furious because, you know, I had bought the tickets and for him and Jeannie, and, you know, booked the hotel room and you know, all this stuff, and then he ended up pulling off, and I was so mad. And it's just like nobody was advertised for those shows, you know, and I thought it was just going to be such a crazy pop, for him and Justice to wrestle in the Odeon. And you know, I stayed kind of mad at him a little bit from that, and, you know, people had pitched booking him, and then he stopped working, and then I just thought, you know, I don't know how the meet and greet's gonna go. We've had him, you know, we had him at that Rager most recently a few years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was thinking about it, and, you know, and I thought, you know, after that, after the last match, I went, this ain't gonna be this fucking guy's last match. You know, like, too many people are talking about it. And I was like, okay, you know, maybe it's time to, you know, maybe it's time to even just bring Sabu in for a meet and greet. And before the last match, I had texted the last number I had for him, and I got nothing back. And then I looked and I asked Fonzie, and Fonzie, it turns out he had changed his number. So the times in between that cancellation, I know I tried to, like, I did think about it a few times, even though I was mad at him, and I never heard back. So, you know, whatever. And then I had asked Fonzie, is this still Sabu's number? Maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago. And he said, oh, no, he got a new number, 2 years ago or something, and he gave me his new number. And I was thinking about giving him, offering him something. And I did text it for the June 7th Youngstown show well before his last match, and it just never,
Materialized.
Never got back to me or something. I don't think he responded, or maybe said he wasn't available. I haven't gone back and looked, but what's crazy though is I knew he had passed away before the news hit because Fonzie called me very upset.
Yeah.
On Sunday morning, and Fonzie called because Fonzie's not going to be there Friday. He had pulled off for he had a big convention booking, so Fonzie's kind of, if he gets like a big money offer, I let him, I don't let him, but I tell him it's okay if he goes and takes the big money.
Right,
and, so I thought he had called me, and I thought, oh, Fonzie must be trying to get back on for Friday. And I was like, I was doing something, and I was like, I'll call him back in, a little bit. And then 5 minutes later, he called me again. So I was like, this is strange, he's calling me, because he'll usually text me. And then he called back again, so I answered, and he's like, John Thorne, we lost Sabu. Oh. And I said, what? He said, yeah, RVD just called me, and, I'm calling you. Which I thought that was strange that, out of all the people he could call, he called me to break the news to me.
Yeah.
But he was, obviously very upset. Sure. And, he had told me, that Sabu had called him last week and was talking about doing more matches, and I was like, I thought he might, and he's like, yeah, we talked, we were gonna try to set something up in Japan or something, and yeah, I mean, I just felt so bad for Fonzie, and I just told him, I loved him, and I said, make sure you take care of yourself, man, just it's crazy, hopefully, nothing, nobody knows the circumstances or anything like that, but those ECW guys, they all ran hard for a while, and it's just like, it's Father Time is undefeated one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, it's, I just felt, very bad for Fonzie because he was so upset, you know what I mean? And, that's his friend for 30 years.
Yeah. That's difficult for sure. R.I.P. Sabu for sure. Anything else you want to get to? I know we've been going for kind of a minute here. Anything you want to get to before we get out of here?
Do we have any more questions, or was it just about Sabu?
There were a bunch about Sabu. Russ did want to know, was there anyone that you wanted to come out for the 20th that didn't pan out? We kind of talked about that with the Freeview one. Was there anybody else that you really wanted on the card that maybe didn't get in?
I don't know. There's a mystery spot open.
There we go.
I mean, we'll see. We're going to see what happens on Friday first, and then I'll maybe reveal some of the invites that maybe weren't accepted or didn't pan out. But we do have a mystery spot on Friday, so I don't want to reveal too much. I mean, I guess I'll throw that back to the people that are specifically in the Discord. Who is somebody that you thought you were going to see on Friday that you're not going to see?
There you go. Perfect.
Answering a question with a question. Like you're not supposed to.
Right. All right, well, we'll leave those for next week. We got to have something to talk about next week, plus all the aftermath of the 20th anniversary show.
Oh, after party.
Yeah.
We got the after party back at Old 86.
Yeah.
It's the opening weekend of the Garage Bar patio thing that they have.
Yeah,
I don't know if they have an official name for it, but they're going to open that up on Friday. So let's fucking pack that place too. You know what I mean? They were nice enough to sponsor us and, get us a little extra money. So, This is what I'll say, is I feel like we are entering a run like those Mount Carmel Odeon days. You know, I know we're all a little bit older, you know, some of us, but I do feel like that camaraderie, that, you know, connection with the fan base, all that stuff, I feel like is really right on that cusp of coming back to, you know, those Funhouse Good Company after party days. I think Old 86 is like that vibe, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
It's just such a great place, the perfect place for AIW fans. It's affordable. It's a 4-minute drive from Globe Iron.
Yeah.
Which means it's a 4-minute Uber from Globe Iron.
Hell yeah.
You know, so I would love to pack that place too. I mean, you know, everybody is going to want to celebrate the 20 years of AIW. Make sure you get to that after party too at Old 86. I mean, don't just come for the show. You got to come for the full AIW experience, which includes going to the fucking after party like the old days.
Yeah, it's that backyard kind of garage bar thing that they have in the middle is just a great kind of hangout spot. That's where, you know, last summer we had a bunch of good times in the back. There's plenty of room. There's a bar out there. There's open air. You know, you're outside. It's really nice out there. So yeah, come on out. Pants told us it's Big Dog Summer, starts this Friday. So come on out to Old 86. It's going to be a good time for sure. Anything else before you want to get out of here?
No, I mean, just keep your eyes peeled. For if we can release those tickets Friday, right? And then obviously, you know, the announcements of Priscilla Kelly, formerly Gigi Dolan, is going to be in Akron. Akron on June 21st.
The rap show.
Elena Black, formerly Cora Jade, is going to be at Absolution at Globe Iron on July the 18th. Let's pack those. And then Youngstown. You know, Youngstown is stacked. Youngstown is kind of like getting overshadowed, I think, by those announcements, but we have the Headbangers, Evil Uno, Little Guido, all coming to the Penguin City Brewery on June 7th. There's only 10 front row tickets left. Let's pack that place.
Hell
you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, we're going 3 guests. You know, it's $15 GA. The tickets are a little reduced, you know, for that show, obviously. I would love to pack them. You know what I mean? Like, let's pack all these fucking big summer shows that we got coming up, and you know, we're gonna put Russell Rager tickets on sale sooner than later, because those typically sell out. So, you know, just trying to keep that momentum rolling.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for Youngstown. I was a big Headbangers fan when I was a little younger. Those two have always been just a favorite of mine. And you got Little Guido. We gotta get Duke to get on getting them hotel rooms again, because I'm drinking with Guido for sure at that brewery, and we will not be able to drive. I can tell you that much.
Well, we should get that room across the street this time.
Yeah.
You know, that Doubletree or whatever it is.
Yeah, we're
across
gonna
the
have
street, so we don't have to even go anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Guido's going to have to go back to Cleveland eventually, because I think he's got an early flight home, but that's not going to be for you or I to do.
Yeah, it will not be my responsibility. I have a lot of responsibilities. Driving Guido after the show, not it. I'm calling it now.
That sounds like a job for a nice and sober rookie student to get the experience of what this business is really like. You know, making sure little Guido is drinking all day.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, like he said, you heard Thorne get those tickets. Some big names coming through AIW soon. Don't wait. Don't get shut out. Get those tickets. We'll see everybody this Friday at the Globe Iron in the Flats. Doors open 6:30. Get there. Look for our socials. Like we said, if you still need a ticket, keep your eye on us on our social medias. We will announce that, blast that email. We'll try to put that everywhere we possibly can so everyone is aware. We'll see everyone this Friday. For myself, for John Thorne, for everybody at Absolute Intense Wrestling, we'll see you next time. Thanks.